The Passion of Christ, exploring the events leading to the crucifixion. A key concept in Christian theology. The Passion of Christ refers to the last hours of Jesus' life and provides deep understanding of the depths of love, suffering, and redemption. In addition to being a factual account, the events leading up to his crucifixion represents a profoundly spiritual journey that embodies the core of Christian doctrine. Every stage of the Passion demonstrates the great emotional and physical pain that Jesus voluntarily went through, from the Last Supper, where he spends his last hours with his disciples, to his crucifixion, inducing prayers in the Garden of Gethsemane. His treachery, unfair trials, and the terrifying trip to Golgotha, where he was crucified, come next. Jesus' words of forgiveness and his unflinching obedience to God's plan, however, shine as a light of love and hope even in the face of unspeakable suffering. Examining the circumstances leading up to Jesus' crucifixion allows us to consider both the extent of this sacrifice and the lessons he taught about grace, mercy, and the victory of love over hate. Believers are still inspired and challenged by the Passion today, and are encouraged to follow Jesus' example by embracing forgiveness, compassion, and a strong, enduring faith. The institution of communion. The Last Supper. The Last Supper, in which Jesus has his last meal with his apostles, marks the start of the Passion. In Christian religion, this supper, which is typically thought of as a Passover feast, assumes a significant significance. Jesus lays the groundwork for the Christian practice of communion, also known as the Eucharist at the dinner, by breaking bread and sharing wine, which represent his body and blood. Jesus explains that his sacrifice will be for the forgiveness of sins, hinting at his imminent death. Additionally, he foretells Judas' treachery, which establishes the framework for the subsequent events. More than just a meal, the Last Supper marks the beginning of a new covenant between God and humanity, with Jesus providing himself as the ultimate lamb of sacrifice. The Last Supper serves as a reminder to Christians of Jesus' unselfish love, sacrifice, and teaching to love one another as he loved them. The human struggle of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus withdraws to the Garden of Gethsemane with his followers to pray after the Last Supper. Here, aware of the torment he is going to endure, he feels intense pain and distress. According to the Gospels, Jesus is in such mental agony that he perspires drops of blood. He asks his Father in prayer whether he can let the cup of sorrow pass from him, but in the end, he says, "Not my will, but yours be done," submitting to God's decision. In addition to demonstrating Jesus' unswerving allegiance to God, this scene emphasizes his humanity, his anguish, fear, and internal turmoil. For believers, the agony in the garden offers a powerful lesson in trust and submits by serving as a reminder of the weight of the load Jesus bore and his complete resignation to divine will. Judas' part in the Passion. The betrayal and arrest. A squad of soldiers arrest Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane after Judas Iscariot, one of Jesus' 12 disciples, betrays him for 30 pieces of silver. Jesus is the one who is arrested after Judas kisses him, because it is the ultimate betrayal of trust. This betrayal by a close partner gives the Passion story a deeper emotional and spiritual dimension. Judas' deeds serve as a warning about the perils of greed and treachery, in addition to fulfilling Old Testament prophecies. Christians view Judas' treachery as a metaphor for people's propensity to reject God in favor of material gain. But it also emphasizes Jesus' act of forgiveness, because he continues to refer to Judas as friend even after Judas betrays him. Jesus' trial and suffering begin when he is arrested as a result of the betrayal. The Sanhedrin trial, religious charges. After being arrested, Jesus is brought before the Jewish ruling council, the Sanhedrin, and high priest Caiaphas, because he asserts that he is the Son of God, a claim that the religious authorities believe is deserving of death. He is charged with blasphemy. Jesus largely keeps quiet during the trial, which satisfies Isaiah 53:7's prediction that the Messiah will be like a lamb led to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent. The significance of Jesus' trial before the Sanhedrin lies in the fact that it symbolizes the religious establishment of his day rejecting him as the anticipated Messiah. The conflict between the strict legalism of the religious authorities and Jesus' teaching of spiritual emancipation is also shown in this trial. Since the Sanhedrin lacks the legal capacity to put him to death, it prepares the way for his eventual surrender to the Roman government. Pontius Pilate's trial. Political maneuvers. Jesus is taken before Pontius Pilate, the Roman ruler of Judea, following the religious trial on accusations that he challenged Roman authority by claiming to be the king of the Jews. At first, Pilate is hesitant to execute Jesus because he believes he is perfect. Pilate eventually agrees, however, after being pressured by the mob and Jewish authorities to have Jesus crucified. He is renowned for washing his hands to signify that he is not accountable for Jesus' death. The political factors at work in the Passion story are brought to light during Pilate's trial. Pilate's choice to have Jesus crucified in spite of his own conviction that he was innocent shows how political leaders can be influenced by public opinion. Pilate and the masses perceived Jesus as a possible challenge to Roman authority. Yet his kingdom is not of this world, as this incident also demonstrates how Jesus' kingship is misinterpreted. This trial serves as a reminder to Christians of the injustice Jesus faced and his readiness to follow the path that was set out for him. The road to Golgotha, the way of the cross. Jesus must carry his cross through the streets of Jerusalem to Golgotha, where he is crucified after being condemned. Soldiers and bystanders ridicule, assault, and degrade him along the way. When Jesus is too weak to bear the cross alone, Simon of Cyrene is forced to assist him. Jesus' suffering and his identification with the anguish and frailty of humanity are powerfully symbolized by the way of the cross. His readiness to carry the burden of humanity's sins is evident in every stride he takes toward Golgotha. This trip serves as a reminder to Christians of the price of salvation and the extent of Jesus' love for people. In many Christian traditions, the Stations of the Cross are a devotional ritual that honors this journey and invites followers to consider the meaning of Jesus' sacrifice. Jesus' ultimate sacrifice, the Crucifixion. The crucifixion of Jesus at Golgotha is the pinnacle of the Passion. As Jesus is nailed on the cross between two criminals, he suffers from severe bodily and mental agony. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," he says, offering forgiveness despite his agony. His last statement, "It is finished," denotes the conclusion of his earthly mission and the accomplishment of the Messiah prophecies, because it symbolizes the time when Jesus takes on the sins of the world and offers himself as the ideal sacrifice. The crucifixion is essential to Christian theology. His death, which paved the path for peace between God and humanity, is seen as the pinnacle of love and obedience to God. The cross represents victory over sin and death, as well as the possibility of resurrection and eternal life for Christians. Conclusion: The Passion of Christ is a timeless story that offers both believers and unbelievers a deep understanding of sacrifice, love, and salvation. Jesus' betrayal, agony, and death on the cross, the circumstances leading up to his crucifixion, emphasize the breadth of his compassion and his unfailing dedication to carrying out God's purpose. His readiness to go through such extreme mental and physical suffering, not for his personal benefit, but rather for the sake of humanity, highlights the transformational potential of selfless love. For Christians, the Passion serves as both a historical narrative and a spiritual manual that encourages followers of Jesus to embody the virtues of humility, forgiveness, and faith in the face of hardship. We are reminded of the significance of these lessons in our contemporary world, where divisions and disputes frequently eclipse compassion and unity. As we continue to consider the Passion of Christ, in the end, the account of Jesus' crucifixion exhorts us to live a life of kindness, grace, and hope, imitating him with fresh zeal and dedication. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Passion of Christ, exploring the events leading to the crucifixion, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.